All right, I'm gonna go ahead and kick this off. Just trying to wait, let people get in here. I know sometimes folks have a technical difficulty. If you're in here as a guest, feel free to keep your microphone muted and keep your video off. It'll just help us. It's less distracting. So if you're not a board member, if you don't mind, just to turn off your video, make sure you're muted until you're if we do some kind of a question thing, we can get back in there, but it'll just be less distracting that way. All right, it's 18:34 hours local time. I'm your president, Ty McMahon. We're going to kick this off. We do have in attendance. Let's see, make sure I got all this. I'm going to go through this. Barry, W5CJ. We do have Jim, KD4FUU. Mr. VP, Joe Plunk, NS4E. Matt Ryan, W2MJR. Perry, N4GJ. Scott, KM4PMU, and myself, KX4MQ. And hopefully not missing anybody else there. Those are all the board members present. Okay. Cool. So normally we have like a round table. We're not going to do that right at this point. But we have had members that, they brought up issues with us, and we just we need to make sure that we're addressing these things as a team. And coming into this, there's some things that we're going to have to get together on. And just before I'd probably say number one thing is going to be our budget. We're going to have to make sure that we come together to pull that together for the club meeting that's coming up. Right. So it's not going to be, it would be a disservice for us to not talk about this, not have it in order, not really know, and then come to the next meeting and not be able to present this. Right. So we told everybody at the meeting, the club meeting, just kind of roll back time a little bit, that we would make this a priority, that we would get in here and talk about this and kind of get the financial things squared away. That's really important because we did table that, which is not really the way that usually goes. So we need to have a presentation of the budget. We'll need to work that into our schedule. So I'll ask you to be a little bit flexible with that. We might have to, and maybe we don't do the lightning round next time, right? Just to give us a little bit more time. Maybe we, do 1.5 meeting presentations or something like that. But I think we actually had enough time last time. So if you just skip the lightning round for next month, I think you'll be fine. You'll get back enough time to do it. Does that sound okay, John?
Yeah. I was planning on trying to do one presentation that was kind of going to cover all 3 rounds with one presenter. So if I can still line that person up, we'll just shorten it up a little bit. So
yeah, that'd be my recommendation, because then we're good on time. We don't have to worry, and I don't want to shortchange Jim from being able to not only give a little bit of a presentation, a succinct presentation, but just being able to answer any questions that people might have.
yeah, my plans were to reach out to Glenn Papil and see if he could do an Arduino presentation, which would take longer than 15 minutes. So this might be the perfect time to do that. Let him go over the 15 minutes, and then leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah, he's got quite a drive, so it would be nice if we could give him maybe a little bit more time to.
Exactly. So this may be the perfect timing to do that.
And
Cool.
he is an Arduino expert. He's a
Absolutely.
multi-book author.
Yeah. I haven't reached out to him yet, but I will.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Yeah. You mentioned something that to me when we were talking, so that's cool.
I think the membership would really enjoy that presentation too.
Yeah. Okay. So, and then signed copies of the book at the end, if he's got them. That'd be kind of cool. All right. So, I just wanted to bring up something that, and I'm going to drop a link to this in the chat. And I realize that not everybody's familiar with this, and this link is a little bit funky, so let me just. It's a PDF that the state of Tennessee provides, and it outlines what every
So-
board member should know. And I want to just cover this real quickly and then we'll get on. Yep, go ahead.
So while you're doing that, we do have an audio caller. I just want to make sure we understand who the audio caller is.
That was
Right.
probably Joe Lowenthal. He's been asking for the link to dial in.
It's the same link as the board meeting. You just click the link that you have in your history or
It's either probably Joe Lowenthal or Mary Jean. I don't know which.
give me just a
356 1475.
Okay, give me a second here. Yeah, it's Mary Jean. It's not-
Yeah, it's Mary Jean.
Yeah. Cool. All right. I'm going to bring this up and I'm going to share this tab and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'm going to tell everybody that's on the board that you absolutely need to read this. And it is the law of the land. And we need to cover this because it's very important for us as board members. And if we're following this, it's actually really good for our members too, because then they know that we're being accountable and doing everything that we're supposed to do. Not just from the Delta Club side of things, but actually as well, the state of Tennessee. So you can actually get out there and Google this, and you would just Google state of Tennessee nonprofit, and it's like one of the top things. And this is a guidebook for Tennessee nonprofits 2016 edition. I think this is the last time they did it. There may be a newer one. Again, I'm not going to go through all this, but there are some major things that it talks about in terms of board member duties and things like fiduciary duties. And a lot of people skip over this word because they think they know what it means. They think it means money. That's not what that is. Okay, we'll talk about this just for a second. There's also some legal requirements in terms of board members and officers and stuff like that, because there's a difference. Unfortunately, in our bylaws, there's a lot of mangling that has happened, probably not intentionally, but it has happened. And it makes a lot of these terms very unclear as to what the roles are exactly and what each person can and can't do and should and shouldn't do. That's not a replacement for the law, so you can't just rely only on that. But we're going to have to do a better job here to make sure that we're following the guidelines. Again, I'm coming into the board new, so I have served previously on other boards as the president and vice president, and we've had to do this kind of thing. So I've come to previous meetings and I've asked for financial records. I've asked for some of the things, and I've not really gotten any of that yet. And the reason I'm asking for that is not because of any person. It's because I'm trying to fulfill my legal obligations to the club to make sure that I, as the president, CEO, and chairman of the board, understand what this body is doing and what they have been doing. So that's what I'm basing all this on. So I'm not trying to, say anything other than just, hey, I need to find out what's going on. I want to point out on this sheet a couple of things that are super important, and they're legal terms, right? This is not regular terms. These are not ties definitions. These are the law of the land legal definitions. Duty of good faith. And they have basically boiled it down, and there's more to it than that. But basically, being honest with the nonprofit in seeking travel or expense reimbursements, if that's appropriate. Duty of loyalty, offering. They were given an example here, offering printing services to the nonprofit at market or below market rates. Right. So in our case, it could be fulfilling what the club Constitution calls for in terms of service and education. By the way, I had to do a lot of digging to find the old bylaws. And I do have a major issue with the fact that the old bylaws were thrown away completely and they were not amended, right? So like in the US, just to give an example, we have the Constitution of the United States and we have the amendment because you amend it. You don't throw it away and come up with a new constitution because, you know, some new person got elected. And I think that there's wisdom in that. It's maybe not very easy in terms of the political part of it, right? Because you got to wade through all this language. But it's very important to understand what was there and why it was there and what changed and why it changed. I'm at a big disadvantage because I didn't have any of that information. And now I'm starting to get some of it. So I'm able to see, you know, why things changed or maybe what has changed. But that's very, very important. And that's the basis for a lot of the questions I'm asking. The last kind of bullet point to point out is duty of care. This is a really big one because you need to show that you're voting against things that are not lawful, things that are questionable, things that are not clear. You're putting your name on the record as saying, I agree with this. So you'd better be sure that what you're doing is correct. If not, then we need to have some discussion, or if we need to, hey, like in the case, I think we had a discussion recently where we probably need to talk to a financial person about this, right? We talked about talking to a CPA. Those are very intelligent, very good things to do. That conversation needs to be brought to the board. Okay. Unfortunately, I found out that the things that were talked about with the CPA, that was a deal that was brokered by somebody else behind the scenes. So we've got somebody on the board that's going out and brokering a deal with somebody to audit the records of the board from a person that was just on the board. And that, my friends, is a conflict of interest. You cannot do stuff like that. We're trying to get to the bottom of, you know, like, well, wait a second, did we do something wrong? And again, like, I don't think that anybody would intentionally do anything wrong, but we just need to be sure, especially when we're talking about a budget. We need to know and understand, like, well, wait a second, where was the money actually going and how was it accounted for? But like, how did we make that money? Like, it's obvious if it's just a membership thing, that's very clear and obvious. But in the case of these items here, like, for example, the estate sale, and remember, I did ask for that to be suspended immediately at the previous meeting where we discussed it. I don't know if that's been the case, but I need that to stop until we can get an expert on this and find out what the right way to do this is. Now, we've gotten some feedback from people and we've gotten some legal advice that, you know, goods, any kind of exchange cannot be done on money for a nonprofit like that, right? So in other words, you go down to the local, you know, the widow who has, you know, $50,000. I'm just making this up, but you have somebody that, oh, let's just make it a more maybe likely. You got $5,000 worth of HF gear and her husband passed away. Okay, there's a lot of things that have to happen here with this. Who determines the value of the equipment? And how did they arrive at that? And what records are being kept on that? And then what if we get equipment in 2014, but we actually don't sell it until 2023 or 2024 or 2025? Like, there's a lot of ambiguity around this that I don't like personally. And so I'm going to, you know, oppose that as president, especially in the light of the fact that, you know, Jim, we don't want things to be hard or complicated for you. We don't want you or any other person that steps forward, we don't want them to have such an amount of stress because it's so complicated to do our books because we're doing all these crazy things with numbers that it becomes a hard thing. This really should be very straightforward. And it should be like, we should be able to sit down as a board at a meeting and go, all right, we'll have a committee meeting or a sidebar meeting rather. We should be able to sit down though as people of that committee and go, okay, wait a second. What does that category mean? Well, it's all the refreshments. Okay, cool. And everybody agrees, and then you move on and you just pick apart the thing constructively together as a team, as a committee. You pick that thing apart until you've pretty much feel like you've got this thing is nice. It's very transparent. It's very clear. It's concise. We don't think that we've missed anything. You come back to the board, basically a little bit of explanation of, hey, here's what we did. Here's some things that we changed. You do a little presentation that's like 3 or 4 minutes maybe, and then it's actionable. And we come back to, okay, let's let everybody review this for a week and we'll come back and do a special meeting, you know, just for approving the budget from the board side. And now we've got a paper in our hands that we can go to the membership with, and we're all we feel very good about it. We're like, hey, we went over this with a fine-tooth comb. We're putting this out here early for all the members. Go look at it, pick it apart, send back questions because we want this to be like clear. And we want other people to also have a warm fuzzy about it. And then at a future date, which would be the next board meeting, now everybody had a chance to discuss it. Now we're going to vote on it. And people can raise their hand with confidence, not just because everybody else did in the room, not because, yeah, I second it, I third it, yeah, whatever. Like, no, you're doing it because you know what you're doing. You're doing it because you have read the document and you fully understand. And so you're voting aye or nay because that's your right as a member. And if there's any discussion points, we can deal with it. Hopefully that makes sense. I've kind of unfolded a lot of things. I'm just going to stop for just a second and see, you know, is there any question about what we've covered so far on those 3 points, and then kind of how it relates to what we're dealing with now in the board. Okay. All right. The difference between officers and board members. This should be better laid out in our documents, but unfortunately it's not. It was kind of nixed and thrown out. And that's unfortunate because typically your board members, I mean, and it's very normal to have like a board member at large, for example, who doesn't necessarily do anything. They're just on the board, if for nothing else, to be the voice of the crowd, to be the voice of the membership, right? That's a very normal position to have. Tennessee actually recommends that you have 7 board members when possible, but it just depends. But the minimum is 3. You need to have a president, a secretary, and a treasurer. That's the bare minimum. The problem that I have right now with the way that we do this is we've got people that vote on the board and don't, and it seems to be very unfair, and we're very oddly distributed. So for example, you've got somebody, and I'm going to use Matt as an example because of the name of his position. He's called the Public Information Officer. So actually that's saying that he is an officer of the board, but yet he, in the bylaws that we have now, says that he does not have any voting rights. Well, that's just wrong right there by definition. Now, I'm not here to try and, you know, change the bylaws right at the moment, but we got to think about these legal definitions and the implications. Words do matter in the law. Oh, yes, they matter very much. And I'm not an attorney, but like I said, I've served and I've learned a lot from folks that know a lot more than I do about boards. And so I'm going to defer to counsel. We're definitely going to be getting counsel for this board. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that, guys. We just have to, and it's to protect us as a board. We need to make sure that whatever we're doing in terms of changing bylaws, rules, or whatever, we just want to be like, hey, whatever we're supposed to do, let's do that. That would be my advice to everybody on this board, is that you basically take that position with me and let's try to make sure that all this stuff lines up and that we don't get into trouble.
According to the bylaws, we're required to have required to have club council. And as far as, I mean, I'm newer, but I've never been informed that we do. But according to bylaws, we're supposed to.
Yes, we're supposed to. There's a lot of things in there that it reads like shall, may, can, like there's different words in legalese that mean different things. And shall means that you will do it. You should be doing that. Right? So for example, the repeater trustee, well, you're supposed to have a repeater committee, an actual official committee. There should be committee meeting minutes, and there should be a result and a report from that committee. And I have not seen any of that. And, we've got to start following what we're saying that we're going to do here. That causes a lack of trust. And here's the other thing. The silver lining to this is if you guys have a committee under you, guess what? You've got understudies. You've got people that are ready to take over when you are tired of your position and you're ready to move on, or maybe you have a life event and something changes, and work or whatever. You've got somebody under you that can help cover you. That's good for the club. In fact, when I went back to look at the previous bylaws, that's the way the bylaws were written. They were written that everything went through committees. Here's the other nice little byproduct of that. People that are not really able to commit to all the board meetings, they can very, very easily get involved in a committee. And that's why I was pushing so strongly for that. Like for the Treasury, for example, you could totally have a business committee and get people on there that were former CPAs or lawyers or business people, or they just small business, whatever. They know some things. Those kind of folks know a lot because they have to. All right. So we can start to benefit from those people. And those meetings are probably going to be pretty quick and not very long. And it's one more day, evening, whatever. But now we know that we're being the most effective as we can. And here's the other thing that you will do. You will offload a lot of research, checking, and work to your committee. The best part about it for us should be the fun part, which is, hey, now we're cooperating with our fellow club members. The success that you have is not just, and I'm just using you, Jim, as an example, but it's not just you. It's now, you and your committee, right? We can do this for literally almost every single aspect, and people will love to get involved, and not everybody will, but you don't need everybody. You just need a couple of people. It just shows that they care and they're willing to get involved to help their club be better. That's it. Back to my thing here about the delineation between board members and board officers. Typically, your board officers are the ones that are voters. Your president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, anybody who's listed as an officer would be the ones that vote. The other board members are on the board, but they do not typically vote. They report back to the board. They're on the board, but they typically do not vote. And so I don't know what changed in the bylaws, but something has changed. But like, for example, if somebody volunteers to take out the trash, like we're not going to create a board position for trash taker outer. Like that's silly. I mean, it's weird. Right. So I'm not going to let that person vote on the board. The people that are the officers are the ones that have the legal skin in the game in terms of keeping the tight ship. And that's, in my view, I agree with that. And I subscribe to that idea. It's not the only way to do it, but I do subscribe to that idea, is that you keep your 4 or 5 officers, you keep that very easy, because the votes become very easy. You end up with like 5 people. And it becomes very simple to do your voting, and the other guys are there to help and support, but they're in a supporting role on the board. Okay. So
But
that's basically,
I'm sorry, Ty. Let me ask real quick, since you've served on boards before in this role. Does it matter if a board member is in charge of, like, spending money? Like, Scott has to purchase things, Barry has to make purchases.
so the way, yes, it does
So-
matter. The way that always
does.
works is any expenditure. And by the way, this used to be in the bylaws. Most clubs or organizations set a dollar amount, and any dollar amount over, like, let's say we said $100. Okay. I'm just throwing a random number. Anything over 100 would have to come back to the board and get an approval. In fact, the way Delta was set up previously is everything that went through that was considered like a big ticket item was actually approved by the board and then sent to the membership to be voted. And I like that a lot. Now, is it a pain in the butt? Yeah, it slows things down, but there's never going to be a question because everybody voted on it. Well, if somebody goes for 5 years from now, I go, wait a second, how did you get $5,000 for a new repeater? We can go, well, the board approved it. And then there was a meeting of the membership and everybody unanimously approved it. End of the story. Joe,
And that's-
go ahead.
That's pretty easy to do. I'll just, Jim and everyone, we can have called membership meetings equally as fast, but I just want to echo something. I've also served as a president of a board. I was back in the day, I was the president of the Memphis Junior Chamber of Commerce, and I've served multiple years on the board. It is not uncommon for the board to have their purchases approved by the board and not have single people have the ability to spend the money, just to echo what Ty was saying. So I just would echo that back. Anyway.
There are things that the Tennessee state law does require. There's reasons why we do minutes of all the meetings, including this one. Records of board members' actions taken without a meeting. Yeah, that's important also. There's a lot of stuff in here that I'm sure we could probably look over and pick with a fine-tooth comb. Now, I want to start out by reminding everybody, and I meant to say this at the top of the thing. This club is a company. Some of you guys were kind of complaining about that before. And it is a club. It is for ham radio. It's for the advancement of ham radio and the radio art. It's meant to serve the community, but it is a company under Tennessee law. And there were some comments made about the fact that it was, ridiculous and stuff like that. And you can say whatever you want. If you don't want to abide by these rules, I just want to say it this way, in all due respect to anybody. If you read this and you're like, that's not for me, you really need to let me know, because you should resign. If you're not going to follow those rules, or you think it's ridiculous or stupid or whatever, hey, it's a free country. You can say that. But you need to be aware. So going forward, nobody has the excuse that I didn't know. This is basically like a mini board member training. And your homework for this assignment is to go look that up. I've given the PDF document. If that doesn't work for you, please look for the Tennessee Nonprofit Guidebook for board members.
Ty, can I say something?
Yes, please.
Well, first of all, I want it on the record that I wrote a letter to the president, vice president, and the secretary for inclusion in the record.
And I'm acknowledging the receipt of that email.
There are a lot of problems that I pointed out and that I'm not comfortable with. Yes, we're here to have fun. Yes, it's a volunteer organization. But being on the board is a position of leadership. By volunteering or accepting nomination those positions of leadership come with a valuable, necessary, and inherent amount of responsibility to be fulfilled, not just under the law, but to the membership. We're using other people's money here in order to advance the club's ultimate goals of promoting ham radio, providing a place for the membership. I apologize. I'm not speaking about any one person in particular, but as a basic ethical principle, if you don't have the time, if your life is too crazy, I'm sorry, you have my sympathy, you have my empathy. If things are just too nuts, if you can't fully commit the time, then the membership should be, you should tell that to the membership and say, hey, I'm sorry, I took this on, I had the best intentions, but I'm mentally not there, or I don't have the time, or I didn't understand what I was getting into. But by accepting nominations or volunteering for the position like I did, I volunteered for this. I stepped up to Ty and said, this is vacant. I think I can help make a difference. I didn't know what I was getting into because I didn't know what the status of the board of the club was really. Now I did. By doing that, you inherently agreed to the responsibility and the demands that come with leadership, even if it's a volunteer organization, a recreational organization like ultimately we are. You have to fulfill those responsibilities. Yes, we all want to have fun. Absolutely. But in a leadership position, there's more to it than that. And I'm not trying to lecture anyone, but my morals and ethics and how astounded I am, it leads me to have to say that. And people, yes, people have lives, people have illness, they have families. I get it. But that's also why you turn to the board and you say, hey, I'm sick, or my family life is rough right now, my job is rough, and I get someone to help me. Ask for help. But this is other people's money, people who have trusted you and all of us to act on their behalf. So, I mean, if you don't want to deal with the business, which is what the board is for, to do the business of the club, then, ask for help, or say, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, and, maybe somebody else should do this. And that's not personal. That's just principle.
Thank you, Matt. Anybody have any questions? Many board members have any questions at this point? Is there anything that's been presented thus far?
Do you want me to address the letter, Ty? Because there was quite a few things in there.
Well, we need to step through some of the specifics because,
I understand.
at the meetings that I had where there were complaints against me, I was always asking specifics. So I think it's fair to provide some specific things. There's a lot of stuff that we need to unpack. One of the first things that I wanted to take care of, this is one of the things that's in your letter, and I want to properly address it. So, but I do want to introduce the topic. It's a hard topic to introduce because, it is supposed to be that we're doing the work for other people to enjoy and have fun. So I don't like having to deal with something that's not going to be that much fun for us, but we do need to deal with these things so that we can move forward. All of the stuff that we're talking about tonight is about transparency and being able to work together as a team. Okay, lack of clarity, lack of transparency, that's going to keep us from doing our jobs as board members. We got to be open with each other. We got to communicate. And when there's problems, we got to figure out how to communicate that back to the board and eventually to the membership that's, put us here in the first place. Very important things. one issue that I have is because I've gotten so many complaints, this one is going to be in regards to the president's responsibility to appoint the repeater trustee, and I take that really responsibility very seriously. And I did discuss this with the current trustee. We've talked a couple of times, and I think based on my interaction and kind of the feedback from the board members as well as members at large, I would like to move that I would like to propose and nominate a new trustee. So I would like to put that motion out there to move forward as provided in the bylaws that the president can appoint a trustee.
I cannot vote, but I support that.
So just so that the motion is clear, Ty, who are you naming as your appointee?
I wish to present to the board that that Mike Lumen, KQ4FMB/AE, is submitted as the new repeater trustee.
Okay, so there's a motion on the floor that the president's appointee for repeater trustee is Mike Lumen, KQ4FMB/AE, waiting on the FCC database. I'll ask, is there a second? All right, I will second that. Go ahead.
Okay, the motion's been seconded. Thank you. And now I would like the board members that are present to vote either anybody that's that is in favor. If you would please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, I see one vote for aye. I don't get to vote except for in the case of a tiebreaker, according to the current bylaws. Are there any that are opposed to this appointment?
Nay.
Okay, we've got
Nay.
2 nays.
Nay.
Okay,
I'm uncomfortable with voting because I'm not sure what's going on here, or what the.
Okay.
What
So
the
some discussion?
what the issue is.
okay. So discussion around this, yeah. So the discussion around this, and I'm going to throw this out there. You know, I asked Barry.
Real quick,
Go ahead.
Ty, did we hear from everybody that wanted to vote on the board? Everybody get their vote in the record? I didn't know if Mary Jean wanted to express anything or if she was trying to unmute. I don't know if Joe voted or not. Wanted to make sure that everybody has a chance to get their vote recorded, or if they don't care if they have a vote. Anyway, and then with that, we'll move right along to your discussion.
And I just want to point out that the way the bylaws read, the president removes the trustee, he is removed. He does not need the approval of the board to remove the trustee. The trustee remains on the board until there's a new appointment, but once the president chooses to remove him, he's removed until there is a new trustee. So as of right now, Ty electing to remove the trustee, Barry is no longer trustee, in other than sitting in the position until a new replacement. That's the way the bylaws read.
He does have a vote on the board. And he's on the board. But just not the trustee. All right, so thank you for that, guys.
My concern, and it was in my letter, there's multiple problems.
I'm
The
sorry, I didn't see a letter.
It was submitted to the secretary. If Perry did not distribute it, I cannot explain that. It was submitted to the
Come
secretary. for the
on.
record.
Come on.
No, I'm not throwing you under the bus. I'm saying it was submitted for the record. It was submitted to the president. All I can do is submit it. What happens after that is up to the
That's-
voting members of the board. I
that's-
apologize.
That's
But-
ridiculous.
It's ridiculous that a member raised matters of concern and submitted it to the appropriate individuals, I'm sorry, that's insulting. And that's part of
Everybody.
what's in the
Send it to
letter.
everybody. Send it to everybody.
I didn't know that was the proper procedure. I'm not a voting member of the board. And this is part of what is in that
Right.
letter. The behavior of some individuals towards each other merely from discussion is wholly inappropriate. We're adults. Let's act like it. We
I do
shouldn't
want
be
to,
name calling people dictators. We shouldn't be talking over or down to the vice president when he's trying to present membership data that is important, because that data helps us figure out what we have to do to not only keep this club alive by continuing to bring in new membership, but by helping the membership grow. It blows my mind that we can't just come and do business without name calling, without finger pointing. I apologize if I should have submitted it to the whole board. I apologize. I did not understand that that was the procedure. I will do better next time. But we've got to act like who we are. We're leaders and we're adults, and it's not acceptable. And what was in that letter regarding the repeater is a few things. One, I was made aware that Ken Hunt, who is the owner of ComServe, the foremost communication service in the Mid-South, offered his services professionally for free on at least one occasion, potentially multiple, to Barry. The words that were used were that he was summarily dismissed. And as far as I can find in the record, Mr. McDonald never brought that to the board. Ethically, as a trustee, he has an obligation to bring that to the board for the board's consideration. There is a problem with 8.2. I have been made aware and shown a time domain reflectography test that shows a dead short with a potential physical cable problem at 232 feet on the 700-foot run, not the 500-foot run, but the 700-foot run up to 146.82 in its current position. I've also been shown SWR testing that shows that on the receive side, it currently has an SWR of 2.7 to 1, 2.7 to 1.
Mhm.
And on the transmit side, 2.1 to 1. I've been around radio my whole life. I've been working on them since I was 17. I've been an engineer since I was 21. I'm now 38, 17 years. In no way is a 2.1 acceptable on a fixed frequency device like a repeater. And if we can't figure out the problem, but the problem is, as a membership, as working together as a team, which we're supposed to be doing, then we need to bring in other people for another perspective. Nobody can account for what antenna is on 8.2. Nobody can clearly say where it came from or its specifications. No one knows it was donated at the last minute. Okay, but by who? And what is it? What is up there? I've also been shown photos of the termination inside the doghouse that, to me, in my professional experience, does not look like silver plate corrosion on silver plating, but looks like heat damage. The bluing and discoloration is consistent with that, and that is indicative of a lightning strike or someone applying heat to the cap on the heliax, which you don't do. Those connections on heliax are not soldered ever. They're compression fittings. And 146.82 currently fails to meet what the RF modeling dictates that it currently should at 50 watts. At distance, I guarantee you we are not putting 50 watts out the top. The 220 machine also fails short of modeling. 443.7 recently began dropping stations audio, but not dropping the carrier. So the repeater is still keyed up in FM analog mode, but it's not carrying the audio of the stations. That's a potential receive issue with the repeater. And I understand we got it for free, and free is for me, and as an organization, that's great. But this is a problem. I brought it to Barry at the February meeting. I felt very disrespected the way I was basically ignored. I offered my help. I offered my experience. I understand he had health issues, he had personal issues, and that's fine. Again, that goes to asking for help. And
Mhm.
to feel so disrespected and dismissed like that, I think is wrong. You shouldn't do that to someone who's volunteering to help you, especially someone who knows who has the experience and the knowledge to help you.
For those of you that don't know, Matt's he's a former engineer for Motorola, among other things. He has gear that runs military bases actively around the planet and is on call for the support of those, as well as some ships, satellites, and well,
I'm dealing with
you're still on call.
Satellite communications right now in a couple crises, but at the end of the day, we have to maintain these machines. It's part of the reason why we're given money. We should be out there once a month. I've never been part of an amateur radio organization that doesn't go out to their repeater sites once a month, and when they go out there, form a report with numbers
and take people with you.
Power output, full diagnostics on the repeater, and give it to the board. Every membership meeting or every board meeting I've looked back on says nothing to report. Well, the repeater got hit by lightning. How was there nothing to report at the time that it got hit by lightning, or at least appears to have been hit by lightning? When 8.2 went down, the board, it's still, there's no detail. And those records should be kept. I don't know where the serial numbers or the specifications for our machines are being kept. Are they even written down? We're talking about simple best practices. And again, if someone's overwhelmed or they don't have time, ask for help. There are so many experienced people here. Mike, who was nominated, is an expert in millimeter wave radar and side scan sonar. He's one of the foremost engineers developing Toyota's adaptive cruise control and collision avoidance detection in the country. He undersells himself. He's a very modest man, but I won't do that to him. He's brilliant. And he's currently getting ready to attempt his GROL, his Class 1 radio telephone operator's license. We have resources. We have people. Ask for help. You know, we need to do better. And I'm frustrated because I've never been part of an organization like this. When I was a part of TCRA, Tri-County Radio Association, W2LI, whenever they went out to the site, which was once a month, every member was welcome. Every single one. Mm-hmm. It was in the membership meeting. We want you to come because we know someday we may have to nominate you. We may have to put you in the trustee's position, or the trustee may not be available and may trust you to go out there. These are simple things, guys.
Like, I share those concerns.
The best practices and basic best practices. Like, I just want to see this club thrive, but I want to do it the right way. Sorry for going off, but I just technically, personally, ethically, we got to do better. We can do better.
Yeah, I've been concerned about all of those things as well, because I had to go back and watch all the YouTube videos to get, and I saw there were things that I had actually sent to the board that were laughed at. For example, I had asked for just a conversation around the possibility of putting a new antenna up at that 500-foot level for the one that was going to get moved up to 700 feet. And I have about
$10,000. I have about $10,000 in equipment, including a brand new repeater for A2. Well, not brand new, used, reconditioned Motorola Quantar at 110 watts that I was prepared to donate to the board or donate to the club. I don't want to do that now because I donate that. What says it's going to be maintained and cared for? Why would I do that? Why would I donate a brand new run of 1 5/8 Heliax at $15 a foot if it's not going to be maintained? If I don't have faith, and I've made it very clear, and I don't want to dominate this conversation, but I came down here. Sorry, I met with Dave and Damon Runyon today, and we kind of had a reminisce section about my father, so I'm a little emotional, and I'm tired. The only reason I came down here was because my father was dying. I stayed because I found the club. There's nothing keeping me here other than the club. Nothing. So if I lose faith in the club, I'm just going to walk away. I'll sell this house, walk away, and enjoy my early retirement at 39 in January. And it's no skin off my nose, but I care. I probably care too much. But I want to see this club grow and thrive, but I want to see it the right way, and not the club have itself at legal risk, and the equipment not be properly maintained, regardless of the reason, whether it's a lack of time, lack of health, whatever. So sorry.
No, that's
You shouldn't
okay.
Be sorry about
I-
your.
Go ahead, Ty.
I was gonna say, you don't have to apologize for expressing concern or your opinion, and especially, given that. And we thank you for coming here and having the courage to talk about that and bring it up. And we do want to address that. Mr. Plunk, go ahead.
And I do
No, I
fear
was just gonna say-
retaliation for bringing those things up. I legitimately fear retaliation based on what I've been told about a certain member of the board's behavior in private, in regards to matters of the
Well,
board.
That's a point that I want to bring up. This board may have points that we disagree on. We may have points that we don't all see eye to eye on or are not be in alignment. But the obligation of the board is to put personalities and persons aside and work for the benefit of the club, regardless of the dynamics of people. One of our requirements is to make sure that we, as the board, step aside and not step through and be a part of and let personal dynamics infect the board or influence the board. And I will be very frank, at the February board meeting in February, in Ty's absence, I was very disappointed at the way that the board addressed myself as I was trying to conduct business for the president. Regardless of all of that, the challenge that we have as a board that has been duly and properly elected by the membership of our club is we have to carry on and we have to do the business of the club. And the memberships out there, the memberships listening, the memberships telling us and helping us guide ourselves as to what they want us to do and what they want us to do, bring to them and how they want us to accomplish items. Renewals are doing great. We are seeing an influx of new people come into meetings. We're seeing new call signs on our nightly nets. We are getting and creating visibility and traction through social media and other mechanisms that are bringing a positive impact back to the community that Delta Club is the premier amateur radio club to be a member of and be a part of in the Memphis metropolitan area. And what we have to do is we as a board have to set aside all of our personal squabbles and work towards the common goal of making sure that we keep club as the priority. And part of the club is our hardware, our equipment, and making sure that that is in good repair and that it is serving the community interest and that it is serving in a way that is beneficial to the community. And above and beyond all of that, we have to make sure that it's taking and doing what our members, ultimately what our members want that equipment to do, because ultimately our membership through their dues and through their expression of ideas and please do these kinds of things are telling us what they want that to do. whether that's an APRS or whether that's FM or whether that's digital, whatever that may be, our membership gives us the input that they want us as a board to drive forward. Now, I will not spend any more time on the soapbox, but I do hope that we as a board can step aside from all of the other issues and keep our membership as our focus. So I'll end with that. And
Okay, so the thing that I want to specifically address is exactly the issue that was just brought up right there, which is, oh, this looks like the Delta Club is rejoining audio there. That's our recording there. The issue that was brought up to me, and the thing that I felt most strongly about from the last meeting, definitely centers around Barry, with the way that you've addressed the vice president. There's a lot to kind of unpack there, but that's the reason, along with other things, that that I have a problem with. You know, as we talked about before, we're supposed to be working together. Anytime that I've approached you on anything, you've been very negative and very dismissive of me directly. And that's always just surprised me and shocked me, because I always brought things up in just what I felt like was a neutral way, to try to get some resolution or get some acknowledgement, and you have just dismissed everything. You've repeated that same thing with Matt at the club meeting. So it's not just me, it's a repeated behavior, and I just don't know what's going on. You know, I know that you've got friends in the club, and that you know, there's people that like you and care for you and stuff like this. But I mean, we just can't have the negativity on this board. This board needs to be ready to rock. We need to be ready to do the things that our club, quite frankly, expects us to do. And you're not willing to do that. And you have demonstrated that quite visibly, audibly on the meeting last. And I'm just not going to deal with that. I refuse to have you treat my vice president, and anybody else on the board for that matter, with such blatant disregard and disrespect. Again, just to put it in perspective for those that didn't watch it, you can go watch the video, but Joe was bringing up a concern about the falling membership of the club, in the perspective of, hey, all the things we're doing, we're trying to do it to get activity and membership back into the club, right? That's what's going to give us our membership dues and help us have people, you know, to help us serve and help us do the committees and run the board and do all the things that the club wants to do, field day and so on. Okay? You're driving people away. I'm sorry to say it that way, because it's quite blunt, but quite bluntly, it is just that. You're driving people away. The new generation of people that are involved in the club, they do want to do some of these other things. And you as a board member have to come to terms with the fact that you've got to put the club's interest above your own personal preferences. And I'll share something with you guys. Anybody that knows me personally knows that I'm not really a fan of 2 meters. I don't really like that band. I don't personally like it, but I am never going to put that preference over what happens with repeaters. I understand that the 8-2 is a mainstay for the Delta Club. That's how we pull people in to come to the meetings. I was talking with another board member and they were surprised. Yeah, you guys must have spent a lot of time on the phone calling people, because we got 70 people almost to show up. No, it's not an accident, guys. Wake up and smell the coffee. We're just being smart and using the tools that we have. And guess what? We're asking for feedback from the membership at every turn. Everything that we're thinking about doing, we're asking them. Look at the response data that we got from the big survey that we ran before Joe and I were really involved in the board. right? We came to you as the board at the December meeting. We asked for permission to run that. We want to get some information, right? It was a voted on and approved. We got that done like really quick. And Joe Plunk is awesome at doing that kind of stuff. So thank you. I couldn't have done that myself, but we're a team. We're working together to do that. Now, what's the feedback? Let's talk about this for just a second. The very clear feedback that we have from that meeting is that a lot of people are or want to be involved in Skywarn. Guess what? Delta Club has always historically been the Skywarn club. We used to basically, I talked to Ned Savage, KA4BLL. He was the president, vice president of Delta and MARA and all the other stuff. I asked him, and he confirmed what I already knew because I was a ham in that time. Yeah, pretty much. There was about 20 members of Delta Club that pretty much ran it with other people, other, guys from Tri-State and MARA, but pretty much Delta led the charge on all the Skywarn stuff. What else is important about that? Well, Skywarn is being done on DMR. And as you know, last year, the W4LET DMR went down. It had problems. It actually still had problems. And the owners have said, hey, if anything happens, it's liable to go away or go down. That's our opportunity as a club to step up with the technical expertise that we have here, with Mike Lumen, with Matt Ryan, that are actually professionals in the field of RF and related things that can help us do this. They can help us get this out there. But what has it been met with? It's been met with abject resistance. Barry, you've not brought back any of the things that I brought up, and you laughed at the ones that I had proposed via Mary Jean. And that's just kind of despicable, really. I mean, why would you want to try and filter out my opinion as a member? And then later, when I become president, all the negativity that's directed towards me, it's not appreciated. If you've got an actual legitimate concern, absolutely, like take me aside, let's talk about it. Or if we need to, we can talk about it in a board meeting. But if I've done something wrong, like I want to fix it. But when I come to you and say, hey, I think this is wrong, you just deny it. That could not be more closed off and closed-minded. And that's why I'm asking you right now, please just step down off the board, because you don't need to be in this position. You have proven that by way of how you have acted. And I don't know what the reason is. I wish it were different. I would much rather have walked into this board and you went, hey, I heard you want to do some different stuff. Let's talk through it. Would love to have done that. I really wish it could be that way. It would be easier. Because God knows, doing all the paperwork for the FCC, I mean, it takes time. And I would much rather do that. But I don't see a path forward with you, sir. And it's nothing personal. Absolutely nothing personal. It is completely, strictly professional, and I don't look on that as anything, against you personally. And I hope you don't take it that way. It is not intended about you personally. It is just about the position. The position of trustee needs to be somebody who is open and who is willing to accept, the input from others. And I even asked you this when you told me, hey, I want to be, nominated. And you asked me at the ham breakfast, I asked you, I said, well, I said, hey, I'm going to talk to the board and, figure it out. But I asked you, why do you want to do it?
Can I interject here really quick? I've known Barry for many years.
Mm-hmm.
Barry has always been willing to pitch in and help out in any way that he can. I have never seen him angry with previous administrations. And so I would really urge just kind of everybody take a step back, think about this. If you're Christian, pray on it and try to find a way forward rather than just immediately going, boom, he's gone. We are only a month and a half into this thing with a new president and vice president.
Yeah.
That's a very short time.
That's
We're
why we
all
have
trying to get adjusted to one another. And I would really like to see us come together as a team and work together.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The time for that to happen has passed. I'm not willing any longer to
It's only
do
been
that.
6 weeks.
Yeah, there's been conversations and things that have been presented to Barry that he should have been open to. I mean, it'd be like me going to my doctor and complaining that, you know, my stomach is hurting and nothing was done. And then I died from an appendicitis, you know, or appendix problem rupturing, right? Like it's what's
I'm
going to
just
happen
saying
to
it's out of Barry's character to be negative or combative. It is in the past. If you will go back to board meetings,
I've watched them.
as long as you can go, I would challenge you to find somewhere where
I
he's
did.
in that competitive.
Challenge accepted. He was
Okay.
that way. He was, and I went back and watched him, and I appreciate the feedback. And any of the board members can talk about any of this stuff, but I'm just telling you, I watched him be smug and laugh at the things that were proposed, and they were reasonable things. They were reasonable things. Hey, let's check out the other coax. Let's put another antenna up at a higher level since we're vacating that spot. That way, you know, later on, we don't need to pay for another climb. That's a $2,000 or $3,000 climb. You want to try and maximize that. And it's just like a blatant, obvious,
And
like
this is
oversight.
and this is coming from a guy that wants DMR and wants us on M tiers. I mean, yeah, absolutely. But you know, Barry's done a fantastic job, in my opinion, in the past. Is there room for improvement? Absolutely. And I really feel like if we just took a step back and just let calmer heads prevail, that we could find and work out a path forward.
And I want to make clear that I'm not criticizing him as an individual. And Mr. McDonald, please don't take it that way. That was not my intent. But if somebody doesn't have the time, if they don't have the effort, if they're not healthy enough, if they're not strong enough, if they're too distracted with family or something, ask for help. I offered my help. And I was disrespected, basically ignored. That's not right. You got all kinds of people around you who are knowledgeable and willing to go out there if you don't have time. I'm willing to go out there every month. I'm 8 miles line of sight to Brunswick. I can be over there in 5 minutes. And I don't know if it was you or somebody else, but last night nobody seemed to pay attention when someone was trying to send commands to the repeater DTMF, and the repeater seemed
unidentified, by the way, unidentified communications. No call sign was ever given that I heard.
I'm working from home now. I listen to the repeater all day at my desk. I listen to all of our repeaters all day at my desk. I'm happy to help. I want to help. I asked you to help. I asked you to, and I was disrespected. We were given apparently the offer of a professional who is not only a Motorola service provider, an authorized Kenwood provider, but who supports one of the major business systems in the Memphis area. Why wasn't that brought to the board? And I understand, Mr. McDonald, that you've been overwhelmed with your health and with personal stuff, and you have my empathy. I'm sorry. Trust me, I just, over my shoulder, my dad's sitting in a box on my mantle. I get it. The reason I'm down here is my dad was paralyzed and ended up ending up with aspiration pneumonia, and I had to take him off life support. I get what family matters and health are, but if you need help, ask for help. I offered my help, and I was disrespected. And I just don't appreciate that. And I don't claim to know any pattern or practice of that, but I can find a pattern and practice of insufficient reporting of data and inspections and visits, simple things. It should just be, and it goes back beyond Mr. McDonald. It goes back to other trustees. And those are the kind of records that need to be kept. I'm not
For
criticizing
example,
personally. I'm
let's
saying we need to be better.
Yeah, let's just be, for example, this is the
So-
one that I brought up at the last meetings. I was looking for a memorandum of understanding for the tower, and I was told that there's not one. But we did some digging. It took a while. We found out there was one, but somewhere along the lines that has been lost. So we've got legal documents and permission for being on there, but nobody knows. And I mean, this is one of the pushes that I have been doing here was to try and get all of our documents into a central Google repository. And by the way, that is one of the requirements of the state of Tennessee. We've got to have all of our emails for 3 years. Right. Why is that? Because of sunshine laws. So we've got, Joe Lowenthal refuses to use the board system that we voted on. Okay. Well, guess
Ty,
what?
real quick, John,
You're
I think had another. I think John had one real quick more comment. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I want to make sure that.
Oh, no,
you're
I'm
clear
good.
about this.
I'm good. Don't worry about it.
So
No, I'll just take a minute and just say, John, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second. So, John, I do echo what you're saying. We do, as a board, need to come together, and we do need to be human about it and be respectful about it. I just have to say that last month's board meeting was a struggle for me to carry on in a very professional manner when I was not being treated professionally. But regardless of all of that, to your point, John Reiners, we as a board to serve our membership need to come together. We have to move through it. We have to come to an understanding, whatever that understanding may be, however it is, we do have to come together and serve our membership. And that is the bigger goal here. And I'll reiterate it again, because that's what I said earlier, is that that's our goal, is to serve our membership. Because they voted us into the board of directors for the club so that we can take care of because the club is a business. It is a business that has funding and money issues and real property, and somebody has to lead the business. While we want to have fun and we want to do a lot of things that make our hobby interesting, the membership does give the board the ability to say, hey, y'all are the guys and gals and the troop of people that are kind of leading us. You're responsible for the business part of the club. And with that responsibility, we know there's other issues associated around it. So, John, I'm just going to echo what you said again, and just in a different way, and say, I do hope that we can come together. I do hope that we as a board can present a unified front, work through the storming phase that we talked about, and get to a norming and performing phase of group dynamics, and really take the Delta Club back to a level of
excellent.
club prestige and community prestige that we once had. I would love to see, we had 60 members at the last meeting. I'd love to see us crack 80. I'd love to see us crack 100 in the summertime. That would be phenomenal. And that's a lofty goal for us to get to. And it's possible, it's attainable. But to your point, we are going to have to come together, and we are going to have to work through it. And we are going to have to be respectful of each other. Even if we disagree with each other, and even if we don't see eye to eye on each other, we're going to have to set those aside and realize how to move the club forward toward the common goal of, this is the club. This is about the membership and what they're asking us and wanting us to do. All right, I'm off my second soapbox.
Okay. So again, the things that I have seen thus far are very concerning. The outcome of what has come from things being brought up about the repeater. I can't accept that. And I don't believe the board should. And I don't think that the membership should. And I hope that if the board is unwilling to act in this matter, that is a reflection of the board. Barry should not be the trustee. That's plain and simple. It's obvious for everybody. And for the viewers at home, again, it's nothing personal. Barry's a good guy. He's a ham. He's a fellow ham, but we just don't think that he's the right ham for this position at this time.
I
And
just feel like you should give him another chance and give him some time. But yeah, it's not my call.
well, it is our call together. And, the board can step forward and say, and encourage Barry to step down. And this is what I'm asking for.
Hey, I'll save you the trouble. I respectfully resign.
Okay. I thank you.
done.
And I appreciate,
And
and I
it's up to
accept
you.
I accept your resignation.
Good luck.
Thank you. I just need you to please, if we can get all of our documents and make sure that we're in a mode where we're ready to hand that over, that would be appreciated. And I would like to motion once again, to approve, KQ4 FMB Mike Lumen as the trustee so that we have a trustee going forward.
I got a question about that. Because I know that certain positions are listed as, being appointed by the president. Does that require a vote of the board if you're appointing somebody?
It does say that on this matter that I appoint them, and that in this matter that the board would need to vote and ratify that. Yes.
All right, and
That is my-
Michael Lumen, I really do not intend any disrespect whatsoever. I don't know you that well, but is there anybody else amongst our membership that might be equally or more so qualified to be in that position? That's just standard question. Gotta ask it.
There are other people that I have asked.
I don't have the time to sit for my extra. I could pass it in the first sitting in 10 minutes. I don't have time right now. Then Ty has asked me I don't have 5 minutes in a day. So I had to step away today just to be able to catch up on sleep. So
So there are other people, but I think the challenge for them, the ones that are extras, the challenge is going to be making the meetings and making the board meetings. And there is a requirement for attendance. So that's what makes that a challenge.
Ty, what's Jeff's call?
AJ4GY, who is a life member.
And he was interested. The problem is he has obligations on Tuesdays.
Right. So we would have to either move that or adjust it to match his schedule. And I don't know that that's really fair. And it would be kind of tough, I think, on him anyway.
So John, would you like to have, John, just to be respectful of that question, do you have any thoughts or suggestions around other extra licensees that would be willing to step up and fill that vacated role at this point?
No, I appreciate you asking. I just thought that was just a prudent question to ask, and again, no offense to Mr. Lumen
Totally prudent.
whatsoever. Just thought that, we have a membership of well over 100 members, and that there might be somebody equally or better qualified. And again, no disrespect towards anybody intended. Just want to make sure we're getting the best bang for our buck.
It's fair. I appreciate the questions. It's good. That's
Fair
what we need.
question.
It
Yeah,
needs
I
to be
question.
open.
I heard that Mr. Lumen did something with what millimeter wave, like
He's one of the leading engineers for Toyota that works with millimeter wave radar, side scan sonar in their advanced cruise control and collision avoidance systems. He got his radio licenses on his own. He's preparing for his GROL for his Class 1 radio telephone operator license. He intends to get the sonar endorsement because it's related to his work. I'm fairly sure he'll do that in short order. He's brilliant. And he wants to work with everybody. He's a very kind, social person who's interested in being a team player, and that's the reason I support him. That guy is quickly becoming a friend of mine. Yeah, he's a good dude.
So
I was just curious
Mike-
if there was like previous experience as a managing repeaters.
So the role is not actually about managing the repeater so much as it about, getting people involved and, doing the work. And if you hit a stump, don't be afraid to come back and say, look, here's the test, here's the exams, here's the output of the results that we have monthly and the documentation of all the equipment. We can't figure it out. We want the board's permission to go spend some money to do this, or we want the board, we're going to go and we need to talk to XYZ company, that kind of thing.
My experience in all the amateur radio organizations, and I apologize, Mr. Martin, I didn't mean to cut you off. But my experience in all the amateur radio organizations I've ever been a part of is the trustee is responsible for holding the license, stepping in when someone does something they shouldn't, and enabling a team of knowledgeable people to work together, to work cooperatively, and to give an opportunity to people who know nothing about it a chance to learn, become capable responders to a problem.
And he is a manager currently.
Yeah.
So he's
very, very modest and humble. And that's one of the reasons I love him.
Joe, go ahead. Joe Plunk.
That's why I just wanted to hear that kind of
And
information.
Mary Jean is requesting she be unmuted.
Yeah. She can do that. I don't think I can do it. I've asked Mary Jean, do you have the ability to?
Mary Jean may have to do *6#, I think is the unmute, but while she's doing that, I would also just throw this out there Mary Jean, you're unmuted. I'll give you the floor.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry. I have been covered up with working on a car and it was not going well. Is Mike Lumen on this call right now?
He is.
Mike, could you, and I know a couple of the guys have talked about it, but Mike, can you kind of tell us in your own words, like a little bit about yourself and kind of your history with ham radio and stuff like that?
He may have an issue unmuting.
Can you unmute him and just let him know his mic's hot?
It does not allow me to do that.
Joe, if you're the administrator, if you're the individual who quote unquote called the meeting, you may have to do that, Mr. Plunk.
Yeah, I don't have the option for that. And I am.
Let me see if I can do that for a moment. I don't know if I can. I'll do my best, but
anyway, that's all I would like. If Mike is on, if he doesn't mind saying a couple words about himself and kind of
I'm gonna
some
work on
history
that.
behind it, I would certainly appreciate that.
I'll work on that.
All right, can you folks hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I work with engineers. I work in the field. I don't currently hold an engineering degree. I'm a pragmatist. For 3 years, me and three other men we're asked to go to Torrance, California for Toyota to tell them what keeps us awake at night. So that's what I did. They give me stuff to evaluate. I check it. I'm the boots on the ground guy. I look at it and I tell them what I find is wrong. I've been a ham for a year. I just recently got my extra. I'll be quite honest, folks. I'm not an expert on a lot of things. And I'm sure there are people that know a lot more than me. If I was to do this, I would have a committee, a team of people to advise me and to help, because this isn't a job that I would even attempt alone. I've recently brought my mother into my home. She's 88 years old. She's in poor health. My wife is currently retired. I'm still working part-time. So I work for a franchise in town. I enjoy ham radio. I have a passion for it. I enjoy comms. My brother-in-law Joe and I went through the test together. Joe Duke he's a good guy. I enjoy everybody in the club. I've learned things from Joe Lowenthal. I've learned things from everybody, all the presentations. So I would want and need everybody's approval so that we could move forward there. I want the best for the club, but I don't have time for a lot of drama and something like that. So does anybody have any questions for me? I'll be glad to entertain them and answer them as honestly as I can.
Any questions from the board?
I was just going to ask you. So, I appreciate the commitment that you are willing to make. I understand that you're acknowledging that you're not. How I want to phrase this. I understand and appreciate that you're acknowledging that it is not something that you yourself can do alone. So I do appreciate that. I also understand that mechanics work in teams. My brother's an aircraft mechanic, so I understand the dynamics of working with mechanics, working in teams. And I think that is a great dynamic that can be brought to this. The problems may be different, but a problem and how you solve a problem solving is still problem solving, whether it's an engine or an airplane or a radio or a computer. It's still good problem solving methodology. Do you find yourself solving a lot of problems in the role that you're in, especially with Toyota coming to you and saying, hey, what's going wrong out there in the field?
Well, yes, sir. There's what's called dealer product reports where, and there's something called the Obeya period. When the Japanese release something, they have a process called Kaizen. Kaizen's continuous improvement. So during the Obeya period, a product is released and you have to put reports for everything you find. Those particular reports go and are evaluated by engineering team. They go directly to the plant. So that's what I work with. As far as being I'm more of a technician. I oversee about 42 people and make sure that things are fixed right first time. I've been doing that since '82. I'm pretty good at it. I've been written up, I don't like to toot my own horn. I've been written up by some of the industry publications for some of my work, but I just want the best for the club. And I hold no animosity toward anyone. I don't know a lot of y'all. My wife finally started coming to the club, and I don't want to jeopardize anything, and I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but I do solve problems. I'm pretty good with people, but do I know everything about this repeater? No, I do not. Can I learn? Probably so. If I had somebody like Matt and some of the other members to help, I'm certain we could look at this. And since obviously the metrics of the data that's coming off the testing and the high SWR and the possible short at 280 feet is probably something that needs to be looked into. That could have happened recently, with the weather. There's all sorts of atmospheric. So that's kind of where I am there. Are there any other questions or concerns, or trust me, you won't hurt my feelings. A lot of those feelings died a long time ago.
It's part of being in the business workplace, I think.
Oh God, I feel that
Mary
one.
Jean.
Yeah,
Mary Jean, you tossed out and started and opened us up with that. Do you have any follow-ups that you want to get addressed? Because we can't see you, so I want to make sure that we give you an opportunity as an audio participant to follow up.
I'm good with my questions. If y'all can hear this.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Thank you.
We did not hear you. Were you willing or able to vote if we bring up another vote?
Oh yeah. If it's I can be on for a vote.
Because the president emeritus does get a vote, as outlined in the bylaws. Okay, well, I want to ask something because I haven't really talked to you about this, but I think you kind of alluded to this a little bit. But what would you kind of say, Mike, is your reason for wanting to do this kind of a role? Because obviously people are going to complain. People are going to have negative things to say, mostly, I would imagine. Most of the time people don't go, hey, the repeater's great. Sometimes they do, but a lot of times it's met with a negative thing. What would be kind of your thought there, and what's your motivation really for doing that position?
Ty, that's a good question. It's kind of a service thing. I like to pay forward. People have taught me a lot. But basically, it would be me being able to learn something a little bit different, and being surrounded by other people is a camaraderie thing. I'm sure there's other men in the club that obviously know more than me. Several of the people that are on tonight were there when I took my extra, and those gentlemen were very complimentary and kind, and I'm sure they know more than me. My particular expertise, and the automated driving systems, the dynamic cruise control, the millimeter wave radar, which we put one in today and calibrated it, the blind spot monitor, which is side scan sonar. There's all sorts of different things, the 10 years of cars on driving themselves, they're already maintaining themselves in the lane. I work with that. So, just wanted to be of service, but I'm not here to toot my own horn or to tell you how great I am or anything like that. There would be a lot of things boxes that would need to be checked for me to do this. I just want us to be the best we can. I'm getting older and I'm wanting to keep engaged and keep my mind going. So
one of the things that we know we've got a group of about 7 or 8 hams that they've stepped forward as their primary desire, their way to help is to get involved with the repeater club. So are you willing to commit to try and work with, these guys or any other guys that would step forward and try and genuinely want to help?
Absolutely. I won't do it without them. I just will not. I have a life, and like I said, have an elderly mother living with me. I have a son that has suffered combat injuries and from his service in Afghanistan. He's going to get his master's degree up in Boston. I have a full life. I don't want for having something else to do. So, but then that would be the only way that I would do it would be the inclusion of these other people. Having one person try to do everything is not wise. And in my role, I always hired people smarter than me, because sometimes Mike can be a dumbass, and I need other people to help keep me in line and to give me different perspectives, so that when I do have a difficult task, I can always look and say, am I missing something? And then one of the people on my team will go, hey, Mike, did you check this connection? I go, good catch. That's good. We would have to have a repeater committee. I think that just shifts the workload, because Matt would have to be on that. I'd want Joe Duke on that. I'd want, some of the people that were at the Tops Barbecue, and that was the first time I went there, and it was a lot of fun. And maybe, and the big thing is, my first radio was a DMR radio. I had a tech license. I wanted to talk around the world. I couldn't, but I got DMR from Bridgecom, plugged it up. I'm ready to go. I think we could do that. And the mere fact that the other meeting there, when the gentleman had his children involved, and they had the Yaesu Fit Fusion, I thought that was a wonderful thing to see families like that. I just think it needs to be all inclusive. And if it got to the point where there was no faith in me, and somebody said, hey, I could do a better job than you. Okay, then I'm humble enough and wise enough to step out of the way. My life got too busy where I couldn't do it, and delegating responsibilities and authority to other people wasn't working. I would gladly step away. If there's somebody out there that wants to do it, I would love to help you. Because this would be a steep learning curve for me. But I think I might pull it off. Anything else, sir?
Any other questions from the board members? If anybody's watching this either now that are just members, or later on watching this and have a question, please send an email to president@deltaclub.org and to vice president@deltaclub.org, so that we can kind of see that, process that, give that attention. And we want to make
or
sure
secretary or any of the other board member addresses that are out on the website. Just any of the board members can get those emails and forward that out to any of the other board members.
Correct, but I just want to make it clear that I do want to hear if there are any questions or concerns. That's part of being open. Hey, Mike, I like what you said about Kaizen. That is an awesome thing. Kaizen is I believe it's a Japanese word, but it is a one word that basically means constant self-improvement. And
Yes,
it's a
sir.
very big and important thing. I have that at my work too. That's one of our core principles that we have. And that really resonates with me. So thank you for sharing that. That is a very cool and very good thing.
Yes, it's an everyday thing in my workplace, and having that Japanese culture, just the business card exchange is quite interesting. But yes, thank you all for the confidence and everything. But once again, I would serve at the pleasure of the president and the pleasure of the board and the club. And at no time would I be interested in a bunch of drama or everything. And I know equipment breaks, when I have to tell somebody their $150,000 machine is broken, that they just, they're not happy. It shouldn't break. The repeater shouldn't do this or that, but it's going to. But, if we can just be kind to one another and be accepting, and I would not exclude anybody. That's not my DNA. I'm not. So y'all think about it. If I can be of service and y'all want me, okay, here I am, send me. But if not, and you feel it's a better candidate, I understand.
And as to what Mike
All right.
said, I just make clear I'd be 100% in. I would. It would be an honor to be around a personality like his, because that's what I grew up around, and that's the philosophy that I hold. That's why I say on the net every night, be kind to each other. It's not just a line; it's the truth. So I appreciate him, and I would be the first person to come running when he starts putting that together.
Yep, thank you for that. No, as I said earlier, we've got several guys in that group that come, and they're all interested in buying equipment. They're all trying to buy, equipment. They all want to learn how to use, waveform generators, and they want to learn how to use TDRs. They want to learn how to tune cavities of repeaters. Those are all very good things that are all dying skills, guys. And you want to talk about passing on stuff from Elmer's when Mike's in there, and we've got, Matt, and we've got these guys locally that are hams that own communication shops that are willing to come out and help, give a class on tuning cavities and putting up, best practices for repeaters. Man, you can't pay for that kind of training. It's expensive. I couldn't afford that. It costs megabucks to go through that. And most of it, you just got to have experience. So putting together an awesome team for any kind of technical things is going to definitely push up our club in the sight of everybody else. It's going to be noticed. And again, my recommendation is that we move on this and we strike while the iron is hot, and that we get Mike approved for this position, so that we don't have an empty position as the trustee, and so that we can get moving. The truth of the matter is, guys, summer's coming up soon. It's going to be hot, and none of us are going to want to be outside doing any of this stuff for the tower, because it's going to be so stinking hot that we won't be able to stand it. I know somebody
No, go
brought
ahead,
this
finish,
up.
Ty.
Yeah, somebody brought this up recently. Hey, that we've got all year. But no, we don't have all year. People have lives, people have vacations, and I want you to keep that in mind, that if we're not able to come together here as a board and put this guy in, that we're going to have to kick this back to the membership. And I will be seeking the membership to vote Mike in as the trustee. I would prefer to not have to do that, but I will do that.
All right. So with that, there is
Ty.
motion on the floor to go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, that's what I was going to ask. I moved previous question then, if there's a motion on the floor.
There is a motion on the floor. It needs a proper second to approve Mike Lumen, KQ4 FMB. There's a motion on the floor. Previous question's been called. Needs a proper second, please. To approve him as the repeater trustee for the Delta Club. Is there a second to the motion, please?
Previous question only ends debate.
Correct. So is there a second on the previous question? Yes, I will second the previous question. Thank you for the clarification. So previous question ends debate. All in favor of, and I didn't mean to take over the control of the meeting, but all in favor of previous question, please say aye. Aye.
I don't get to vote, but okay. I approve it.
All right. So the previous question's been called. Now the question is, with the motion being, correct me if I'm wrong, Mary Jean, parliamentarian is a little bit in your wheelhouse.
Thank you.
We've got a motion that needs a second, and then we will call the motion. Anybody, is that correct?
I mean, the motion's on the floor, so if the previous question
Yep.
had, I guess, what is it, 2/3 approval, then you proceed to vote.
All right.
But if it's not, we
Believe
continue
we
to
had to-
debate and discuss it.
I believe we had 2/3 of we didn't count the votes, but
The bylaws currently state simple majority of the quorum.
fair enough.
Okay.
I didn't roll call the vote. Sorry. Perry, do you want to roll call the vote, or are you good with that?
We might as well.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to so there's a, just to make sure there is a second, there was this, I would make sure that, and anyone not opposing, I would say that I would second the motion just to make sure it's on the record. With that being said, let's call the motion. The motion is to approve Mike Lumen, KQ4 FMB, as the repeater trustee for the Delta Club. That is the motion on the floor. Perry, please call the roll.
All right. Jim, KD4 FUU.
You got to unmute, sir.
Sorry. I'll vote yes.
Joe Plunk, NS4E.
Yes.
Scott Adams, KM4 PMU.
Yes.
John, KN4 BVH.
Yes.
I believe you have your majority. I would vote yes. Joe Lowenthal, WA4 OVO.
Yes.
The ayes have it.
Mr. President, Mr. Secretary, I know I don't get a vote, but could I request my support for him on the record? If that's permissible.
Congratulations, Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
I'll try not to let you folks down. Just let me know what you want, and I assure you I'm very approachable, and I'm honored and humbled. So like I said, y'all let me know what you need, and I'll try not to let anybody down. And thank you for your vote of confidence.
Thank you, Mike, for being here. Thank you for the courage
you,
to
Mike.
come forward. It's not easy. I want to
Welcome to the
say
board.
thanks. Welcome to the board. And I also want to point out that we'll need you to follow up with Barry W5CJ, the previous trustee. Obviously, he should be able to hand over any contacts that are needed, such as contacts to the tower company. And I'll put some things in an email to you. Everything that I do, just for the people that are listening, as well as the board, everything that I do also goes to Joe Plunk, the VP. So we act in tandem on every single thing that comes up. So if you're asking me something, you might as well save a bunch of time and might as well ask Joe too. We try to work together on stuff. So I will be doing that so that there is a clear record. And we have some continuity there. But thank you again for serving. Anybody else want to make any comment here?
Can I just make a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to echo what Mr. Lumen said. I'm not interested in drama. I don't want to be personal politics. I've expressed it to Ty. I've expressed it to Joe. I had a good conversation at the meeting, I believe, with Mr. Reiners, who I highly, highly respect. I'm not interested in any of that. I just want to see this club grow and thrive, and I just want to see it happen the right way. That's all. That's all I want. I'm not on anybody's side. I'm not for anybody, against anybody. I just want to see, I want a reason to stay in Memphis, and I want to do it without drama, and I want to see it done the right way. That's all. I just want to echo his words.
You like getting shot at, huh? Bad joke. I
Avoid. Yeah.
know.
No, it's actually an appropriate story, but I'll tell you another time about what happened on prom night. Her father was not.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else need to make any comment here? Mary Jean, you good? Okay. I know it's late. We've obviously got other issues to go through. This is going to be to be continued because there's other issues that we're going to have to come back to on the finance side. Jim, I would like to reiterate here for the record that we need to, I would say we strongly need to get a business committee so that we can have that sidebar discussion related to the finance, and let that be open to the membership. We'll help you get the word out, right? If you want to structure something, if you have a preference on how that's worded or whatever, and we can get that out there. And the bylaws say that I'm by default on every committee, so just put me down on that, please. But we want to help make sure that that's a very, very successful conversation. We don't want you to be standing up there by yourself going, well, this is what we did last year, I don't know, or anything like that. We want to have a unified stance with you and make sure that, you know, everything is good and everybody's happy, and we have a good report for them.
I can appreciate that. I don't know enough about other folks' backgrounds. I mean, we all have experience with seeing what people do on the radio. But you know, what their livelihood is or what their experience is, I have no clue what.
That's a
What-
fair point. I think if we
And
broadcast that
nobody
message,
else wanted this position. You know, so why? So I'm wondering if anybody would want to serve on a committee. Honestly, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just stating that.
it's a fair thing to bring up, and that's actually why we want to work with you and make sure if there are any things that would drive somebody away from being that, which are going to be like complexity and like lack of clarity things, we want to help you attack that as a team. And that's the only reason why I said, hey, we need to suspend the estate sale stuff, not because it's a bad idea. It's a great idea, but it has to be done the right way according to the state to make sure that we're not, you know, putting ourselves in any kind of a risk. So that's the reason for that. Look, you've got, I think you've got Paul Broom that stepped forward and asked to be included. I think that would be a good place to start.
The problem is, Ty, Paul is a member. And
No, committee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because
Committee.
he can't ethically, he can't
He
do the
can-
audit. He's a
Not the
gentleman and a
audit.
professional. I like him.
No, not audit.
Okay.
This is an audit. This would be the part of the business committee. And one of the things also, and I'll jump in, Jim, is, you know, we've got a great membership pool out there. Total last time I checked was over 100 members, not counting life members. You add the life members, it's over 150 members. We'll put the call out and say, hey,
Yeah.
we want to make sure we've got some help. We need some help. We've got some questions around some things. Is anybody an expert in this? I know for a fact that one of the new hams that I helped like 2 or 3 months ago is a lawyer that's has expertise in charities. You know, I'll reach out to him and say, hey, can you point us in a direction of making sure that we have the right help? We don't think we're in trouble, but we just want to make sure that we're doing everything right. And
Oh, I
and
agree.
get some help. That's
That-
and that's what we're all about. You know, that's part of the club too,
yeah,
to
I mean,
get to know what we do outside of our radio.
yeah, I was handed, you know, some boxes and essentially it said, you know, I learned, trial by fire, it's, good luck. So,
And as a
Yeah.
member,
Here the box is good, here the box is good luck.
as part of the membership, Jim, I just want to say that, we know you're trying. The membership knows you're doing your best, but if you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. That's my big theme is everybody here, don't be afraid to ask for help.
Exactly. That is a very big thing. Is you've heard Mike Lumen do that, and I'll do that too. Like I'm gonna be the first one to ask you. Like I'm not even gonna consider doing this. Remember when I got appointed? I really actually didn't want to be the president. And I said, hey, I don't think I can do as good of a job as Mary Jean, just walking into the club, right? But I realized that, hey, the club needs the help. And my only stipulation for doing it was, hey, if you'll do the VP role, then then I'll do the president role, because again, it's a success thing. It's the camaraderie of doing it, right? Like with others, with you, the board members, and that's why we're doing it.
All
It's
right,
work.
I'm gonna throw something out there, Ty. I'm gonna
Yes,
make
sir.
a motion to adjourn.
Yes, I would like to second that motion.
Thank you.
It's kind of like
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
All right.
all right, guys.
Thank you,
Thanks.
everyone. Thanks,
Have a good
Ty.
evening. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your courage, time, talent, and treasure. Have a good night.
night.